My name is Kid Perrin. I am Corporal Perrin, United States Marine Corps, 8 years veteran. I remember coming up through high school and trying to decide our future. You always have your career counselors, going through these list of jobs that they think you'd be good at, and none of them really seem to be the idea of what I would like my life to be. I come from a long line of service members in my family, and that was one of those things that I took into consideration. And honestly, it was one of those things that helped me get out of the town where I was. I enjoy traveling, so the military was kind of a win-win. It also allowed me to serve my country, which I thought was one of those things that as an American, we're not responsible for doing or obligated for doing, but it's definitely something we should keep in mind. So the history for my family going into the military, my father was in the Army. I have an uncle who retired out of the Air Force, an uncle who retired out of the Navy. I have an aunt who was in the Navy, two other uncles that were in the Navy, two other uncles that were in the Army. Up to the point where I joined, I didn't have any other family members that were Marines.
The lead kids count. One can't hear you. Two. A little louder. Three. I'll get together. Four. A little louder. One. Louder. Two. Louder. Three. Louder. Four. Together. 1, 2, 3, 4. United States Marine Corps. Hello, 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 hello. I'll pick 'em up and throw 'em out.
Whenever you go into boot camp, one of the first things that they have to do is even out all of the recruits. It doesn't matter if you were the son of the president or whether you lived in a tent before you joined the Marine Corps. They have to make these two individuals equal, because they're going to be serving next to each other and there needs to be mutual respect. So when you go into boot camp, the first thing they kind of do is to wipe your slate clean, and they basically bring everybody down to nothing. And then they build you back up from there so that you're no longer the men you were when you came into boot camp, but you're the Marines you are when you leave. The transition from being in the military, regardless of branch, I have an older brother and a younger sister who are also Air Force. I have a cousin who's currently getting out of the Marine Corps. And one of the things we all find as we've talked with each other about getting out is the lack of the discipline that you get from most of our standard civilian counterparts. They kind of beat it into you, not physically, of course, when you're in the military, that everything is supposed to be done a specific way. And it's not necessarily always the right way, but it does accomplish what it needs to be. And when you get out and you ask other people to do certain things, you kind of expect them to meet your standard for what you're used to, because in the military, there's a standard, everybody meets it. And when you get out and you ask someone to do something, regardless of how important or trivial it is, you kind of expect the same standard to be applied to both of these things, and you find out when you get out, it doesn't. There's a certain amount of pride you take in your actions, and that's not there. It's just there's not the discipline that you're used to dealing with in the military. I'll tell you, when you go into boot camp, that you are coming out a different person. And the longer you're in the military, the more that is exaggerated. Because as I was mentioning at some point, that when you go in, you leave out of being a standard member of society to becoming a military member. The military is not a job, it's a lifestyle. You don't, get your uniform on, go to work, get off work, and you're done. I know at one point in time, we had the idea to follow suit with a lot of other countries in making government service mandatory. I don't think military may be the route for everyone, but I think that should be something we should consider. I think that there's a lot to learn from the way the military does things. I know there are physical attributes that some people won't be able to serve at all, but I think it would be a greater good for everyone to have that that information, those lessons that were taught in the military. And I think it's one of those things that would make us a better society as a whole. As much as there may be issues in the military, they're not as prevalent, they're not as shown. And I think if we could adapt those things into the real world, I think it'd be a nicer place.
If I die on a combat zone, box me up and send me home. Tell my girl I done my best. Lay my smoky across my chest.